Did you know that there's a difference between emotions and feelings? Most people don't, but after this video, you will. I'm Dr. Rees, your new favorite confidence coach, and welcome to the Confidence Lab, where I break it down so you can build it up. Now let's go get better. Today in the lab, we're breaking down the difference between emotions and feelings because your confusion between the two is disrupting your ability to develop emotional confidence, which is necessary for you to have a healthy relationship with yourself and others. So let's paint this picture so we can dissect it. I want you to think about a time where you either had a big presentation, a meeting, or a game, and just the thought of it made your tummy start to feel funny, made your palms start to sweat, or your chest beat a little bit fast. Now, here's what's happening. Your body is having an energetic reaction to the thoughts of the situation that's going to occur. Here's how I like to break this down. I believe that emotions are energy. Again, emotions are energy because when you think about that scenario, your body is having an experience and a reaction to something that's going on. So the way that I like to break down the difference between emotions and feelings is that emotions are energy and feelings are frequency. Here's the thought process. If we understand that emotions are energy and feelings are frequency, emotions is what our body is experiencing and feelings is what our brain and our mind assigns to what our body is going through. So, two different things. Our emotions are uncontrollable. We cannot control how our body reacts to any situation. But what is controllable is the frequency and the thought that our mind assigns to what it is that our body is experiencing. Emotions is what our body does. Feelings is what our mind thinks about what our body is doing. So in this scenario where you have a presentation or a game, maybe you might still feel anxiety or nervousness in your stomach, which are not necessarily bad things in and of themselves. But if you have assigned the thought process that when my palms are sweaty and my heart is beating and my stomach feels kind of funny, I assign the thought process of nervousness, but I'm in thinking about the nervousness, I'm making nerves a bad thing, then that is going to increase the energy in my body because my mind thinks that this is a bad thing. So this is how I teach our son. I tell him, when you feel nerves, nerves aren't bad. Nerves just mean that you care. Nerves are normal. So when you experience your body reacting to the situation, you have a choice to dictate the frequency. Think about it like this. High energy and low frequency means I'm experiencing something that makes my body feel uncomfortable and I'm thinking about it in a destructive way. And it could be something super simple. Again, it might be a presentation that you have prepared for, but because you're so anxious and because you're so nervous and you thought about these things in a destructive way, it's going to only increase the energy. And let me tell you this, when emotions are high, rationale is low. Again, when the energy is high and your frequency is low, emotions are high, rationale is low. That means the decisions that you make out of having high energy and low frequency are going to be detrimental decisions, right? Are going to lead to detrimental behavior because we need to get our frequency high even when our energy is high. But when you have the ability to also have your frequency high, this can lower the impact of the energy. So the point of all of this is to be able to grow in what I call your emotional confidence. This is your ability to execute with high frequency despite the energy. Again, this is your ability to execute, to still get things done, to still do that presentation, to perform well in your game, to go into that meeting, having confidence in yourself, to feel those uncomfortable feelings in your body, but still be able to execute in the way that you prepared for. This makes you think about Kobe Bryant. Kobe even said, man, I still get nervous. Chris Brown still says, I still get nervous. So people who are at the top of their game, Beyonce still gets nervous. Why? Because nerves are normal. It's a normal emotion for you to experience it. But the key difference between those high performers and maybe yourself is that they have trained their mind to know that just because they experience an emotion doesn't mean that emotion is always right. So this is where emotional confidence means I have the ability to execute. I can still get it done. I can still show up. I can still perform my best. And I can do this consistently despite the energy that may be inside my body. Now, here's the key to this. When we talk about high frequency, execute with high frequency, that means just because I feel the emotion, I have the ability to talk myself into knowing how to make that emotion work in my favor, because emotions cannot be controlled, but they can be coached. Again, I'm gonna say it again. Emotions cannot be controlled, but they can be coached. So when I think about some of these top performers in the world, what do they know? They know that I may not be able to control this energy that goes off of my body initially, but I can coach it in the direction that I want to go. I can coach it into my favor. I can coach my feelings to align with who it is that I want to be and who I believe that I am. Also based off of my preparation, which is based off of my reps, which what influences my self and craft confidence. Now I'm going to break down the 3 E's of emotional confidence to help you understand this even further, and then also have some awareness around what the heck is going on in your mind and your body. Now, this is a mind and body experience, which we call in science biopsychosocial, which means it has everything to do with your biology, then the way that we think, cycle, which impacts your behavior. So what we're talking about when it comes to emotions and feelings isn't just, oh, I feel love, or oh, I had anger. Like, this impacts your entire existence. This is what it means to be human, is to understand that the way that we think impacts the way that we feel, which impacts the behaviors that we have, and vice versa. So let's look at it this way. I call this the executor, the entertainer, and the executive. These are the 3 E's. Now, our brain has multiple different aspects to it. These are just the 3 that I like to coach about when it comes to emotional confidence. So the first layer is the executor. The executor is responsible for the way that your body feels. Now, remember, I described your heart beating fast, your palms sweating, your stomach feeling some type of way. That's because the executor is responsible for our bodily functioning and our safety. That's the bottom part of your brain right here. Again, your bodily functioning and your safety. So if you feel or you experience anxiety or nerves, that's because that part of your body is feeling like, yo, I need to keep me safe, because our brain was trained, our brain was kind of designed to help us survive. But what we're talking about when it comes to developing emotional confidence is helping us to thrive. When you are committed to investing in your emotional confidence and understanding this process and knowing that, okay, I can't control my emotions, but I can coach them. Once we start talking about the executive piece, that is how you go from just surviving to thriving. Again, that's how you go from surviving to thriving. So again, the bottom part of our brain, the executor, the brainstem, or the reptile brain is what some people call it, is responsible for keeping you safe, which is why you will have those bodily reactions of sweaty palms or your heart beating really fast, and you can't control it because your brain is doing what it was designed to do, which is to keep you safe. The next piece is my favorite, the entertainer, and this is where our emotions sit. The scientific word is the limbic system, but again, I like to call it the entertainer, because think about this. Whenever you've watched any movie or any reality TV show, or you listen to music, it's going to drum up what? Energy inside of us, emotions inside of us, which oftentimes when we watch something, we're being entertained. And by being entertained, it's making us experience something specific, right? And so I call that the entertainer part of our brain. And the thing about this is what I find really funny is that a lot of times when people act out of their emotions, their behavior is often entertaining. Think about it. If you ever seen anybody do something just crazy or outlandish, and you're like, oh my gosh, like they're acting out of their emotions and it's entertaining to somebody else, but it's often to their detriment and their downfall. Now, let's get to the next piece. The executive. This, my friends, is where we want to be. We want to be able to live and act and move out of the CEO of your brain, out of your prefrontal cortex. You want to say, I am the CEO. I am confident. I'm emotionally confident in who I am and in what I do and how I move through this world. But you have to be an executive. You got to be a boss about yours if you're going to do that. And so in order to do that, you have to understand that this is responsible for your feeling, your thinking, and your execution, your behaviors. This is responsible for how you think. So when I say that your emotions cannot be controlled, but they can be coached, your emotions are going to be coached by the executive. This is me telling you, you have to learn how to not just experience emotions you have, but learn how to speak and talk to them in a way that says, you know what? I feel you. I hear you. I see you. You may not be wrong, but not right now. Or you may be wrong because it's out of context. But without self-awareness, you'll never be able to know if the emotions that you're experiencing are aligned with what you're thinking. Let me say that again. Just because you experience an emotion does not mean that it's right or in alignment with the actual context of what's going on. So this is why it's important for us to invest in the executive part of our brain, because this is the piece that's going to help us live out our purpose with confidence by being the CEO of our life. So as you can see here, our emotions and our feelings are in two different pieces, because remember, emotions are energy and feelings are frequency, because our feelings are what we assign to the emotion that we are experiencing. So again, in our example, whether it's a presentation or a meeting or a concert or a game, it doesn't matter. You can experience the emotion of nerves and anxiety. And if you know that you're prepared, if you know you put in the work, if you know that nerves are normal and you believe this, it changes the way you think about this, which influences the feeling you have towards that. So now when you're going to do what it is that you were created, designed, and trained to do, you can execute effectively. You can execute with emotional confidence and craft confidence, because you're not allowing those emotions you're experiencing to guide your behavior. So again, just because you experience it, just because you feel it, doesn't mean that it's right. You have to be able to gain the reps and skills of thinking in alignment with truth. The emotionally confident have the ability to experience uncomfortable emotions and speak to themselves with confidence so they can execute with precision and purpose. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be able to experience all the emotions that may come up and gain the ability to speak to yourself with confident self-talk that says, I feel this, I experience this, but I can still show up and get it done. I can take the time out that maybe I may need to. I can still express and say the words that are in alignment, so that way my behavior is in alignment with who it is that I want to be, not with who my feelings and my emotions are trying to guide me to be. One of the most important things that we need to understand when it comes to our emotions and feelings is that you can experience an emotion that influences a feeling, and they can both not be rooted in truth. Let me say that again. It is important for us to understand that you can experience an emotion that creates an energy in your body, and that energy that's created in your body then influences your thought process, influences the way that you think, which is the frequency. And if that frequency is low because these emotions are high, this could lead you into thinking negative thoughts. This can lead you into making decisions that are not helpful or beneficial for you or others, simply because we don't understand the relationship between our emotions and our thought process. And this is where a lot of cats get it twisted, is you can control your feelings, but you cannot control your emotions. So here's what I mean when I say that though. You may have an emotion that influences a feeling, and that feeling may say, I'm not good enough. But then when you have trained yourself to be your best coach, when you've trained yourself to be able to move with confident self-talk, you have the ability to catch that false thought and say, I am. And then you can reframe it. But you have to understand that just because you experience that emotion doesn't mean you have to believe the feeling, because the frequency is everything. And that's the thing to remember, is that emotions move us, but the frequency lifts us or dips us. And so it's up to you to train yourself to be able to think in a way that aligns with who you want to be. You're going to experience destructive or negative or uncomfortable emotions. Why? Because you're human. Sometimes your first thought is not going to be in alignment. Why? Because you're human. That's where you insert grace and compassion. But when you have the ability to control your second thought, control the second thought, that is when you apply the frequency that you want to the energy that you feel. So now that you know, tell a friend to tell a friend. Emotions are energy and feelings are frequency. And I want you to be able to invest in your emotional confidence so that way you can execute at a high frequency despite the energy. Thank you for joining me in the lab. I hope that you got something out of this today. And if you did, talk to me in the comments and let me know what you enjoyed and what you want to know more of. And then make sure you share this with a friend who also needs this game. I'll see you on the lab next time. And remember, you are the bag.